So for today, I'm very excited to have Brian Bauer, the founder and president of Bauer Entertainment Marketing. I've gotten to know him in recent months. I've been super impressed with how he operates his business and not only stays up with the latest industry trends, but helps drive them and innovate and push the industry forward with event marketing and all sorts of things. So I watched him speak on a panel down in New Orleans at NEVA this past April. Was really impressed with his expertise and experience, and I felt like he'd be an awesome guest to have on so we could all learn from him. So we're going to hear from Brian. He's got a bunch of topics prepared, but we'd like this to be really conversational today. So please feel free to pop in and say hi, ask any questions. This is for you guys, right? So we want you to get the most out of it and make this an opportunity for you to learn from an industry vet and an industry expert, and have him help you guys get the info you need to grow your businesses. So we'll also follow up with some Q&A to wrap things up. So if you'd like to save your questions for the end, feel free to do that. So Brian, I'll kick it over to you at this point. And I think it would be awesome if you maybe just started by sharing a little bit about yourself, your backstory, how you got into marketing, and of course how you came to find your company BEM and some of the customers that you work with. So without further ado, everyone, Brian
All right.
Bauer.
Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate everybody hopping on and thanks for the opportunity to chat and to help. I mean that's what we do, man. I mean, we really, I mean, I think you described kind of driving the industry forward, and we've really tried to know what's new, efficient, and effective across the landscape of live events and be that resource for folks. So our mission is to bring people together, share unforgettable memories. Sure, we share that with everybody on this call, and it's really excited to kind of be a part of that. Sometimes even in just a small way, but it's what gets me out of bed each day. Is we get to turn people on to their next favorite artist or team or experience or attraction or whatever this thing is, right? Like that's super rad to me. I love that, and I've been fortunate enough to be doing this for, I'm not going to date myself, but a while. And no, it's been a really epic journey. I will start, yeah, kind of start at the start. I mean, I was born into a family, very musical family with so I'm a third generation drummer. Grandfather's a drummer, dad's a drummer, and actually now my 4-year-old son is a drummer. So very, very stoked about, the legend continues. But mom was a piano teacher, so very, again, musical household, and knew very early on that this was sort of an industry that I gravitated towards. Ended up working at record labels and MTV, and I did music video work and radio promo, and ultimately ended up touring and playing professionally for several years. And while I was doing that, to actually make money, I was managing social media pages for a variety of law firms and insurance brokerages and things of that nature. And it was right around that time where social was starting to really kind of blow up, and it was right time, right place. But it taught me that I could have this kind of digital marketing solution and service clients from anywhere at any time. And that really, I don't know, resonated with me. And ultimately, the band that I was playing in dissolved, connected with Etix. And so, if you're familiar with Etix, one of the larger independent ticketing companies, they owned a marketing firm in Nashville. I had played shows in Nashville, loved Nashville. So they ended up moving me from New York to Nashville, and I was agency director for their marketing company for about 4 years or so, and then had the opportunity to spin off and start my own shop. So that was how Bauer Entertainment Marketing came to be. And we've got a team now across about 15 or 16 different states. Um, I think we're just surpassed 45 staff members, and we are a one-stop shop for entertainment marketing. I mean, we really try to be a complement to in-house teams where we're strategists, kind of providing that oversight, guidance, and then we're the tacticians. We're doing the day-to-day management. But it's, yeah, ultimately like just sort of an extension of venues, festivals, tours, promoters, um, attractions, conferences, even restaurants and film and all these different like pockets of entertainment. But again, it allows us to see pretty holistically kind of that journey of a fan, kind of what they go through and what are the roadblocks getting in the way of, buying that ticket. What's maybe working okay that could be great, what's not yet in place that could really move the needle. Um, so our perspective is very data oriented and looks at that funnel or that buyer journey using the metrics to identify, what are the opportunities to improve. So with that, with that all said, um, I'll kind of dig in and start. I think maybe just some observations, kind of more on the macro level. And again, I would love to hear from folks on this call about, what are they seeing as well? Um, because I would, yeah, love to kind of provide you guys with as much actionable guidance and consulting as possible. So, feel free to, I think there may be like a hand raise or just pipe up, whatever, interrupt me by all means. But, um, the number one roadblock that we see across all our event clients is price sensitivity. And I'll share some stats here. So Polestar reported that the average ticket price for a top 100 tour in 2023 was $131. That's a 36% increase since 2019. SeatGeek, on the resale side of things, currently the average resale ticket is $224, and that's up from $125 in 2019. So we're seeing this massive increase in just the cost of attendance. Um, let's talk about dynamic ticketing. And if you're not familiar with dynamic ticketing, it's kind of this practice of raising prices when demand is high, dropping them when it's low, ultimately to help drive conversions. Um, However, two-thirds, so 68% of US adults that were surveyed, somewhat or strongly agree that dynamic pricing is considered price gouging. And that number's up from 61% in July of 2023. So that's another kind of data point that suggests that consumers are just becoming more price sensitive. And, as marketers, it's our job to alleviate those roadblocks, right? And to try to address and combat any, contentious elements of or friction along that conversion funnel. So some of the things that we've been implementing that we found to to be effective are things like payment plans, breaking up to make it a little bit more palatable. So buy now, pay later, that kind of thing. Um, there's also an opportunity with kind of similar like ticket insurance, and that allows people to uh, feel a little bit more at ease with their purchase. That there's an opportunity to uh, not be as locked in. Uh, Resale marketplaces as well. So providing that kind of flexibility, boosting consumer confidence when there's an opportunity to have kind of a resale that's more controlled. So it's not, um, some of the resale markets that are kind of like price gouging. There are some that exist that also allow you as the event producer to set a cap or a max on how much somebody can resell that ticket for, which I think is, again, if you're trying to think long term and control that relationship with your audience and elevate loyalty, like that's something that you would want to put in place. Um, Elevating the perceived value is also really important, and making sure that your consumers know kind of all the bang for their buck. Um, there's an exercise that we will have our clients go through and go through with them where it's, what's everything included with the ticket, right? So is there free parking? Are there clean restrooms? How easy is ingress egress? How many, food vendors are there? Like all of these things and list them. I mean, these are all selling points and value points that you can incorporate, because that's going to sound a hell of a lot better than just general admission ticket. Kind of building off of that, like, why is the show special, right? And so, some of the things that we talk about are, is like, why is this why is this again worth somebody's hard-earned money? Is this the first time that this artist is playing in this market in the past however many years? Are they, doing their full album? On the sports side, it's like, is there a particular rivalry thing going on, or bobblehead night, whatever. But like, what makes this special, right? Because I think the day and age of just putting on a show and letting the show sell itself because it's the artist, it's just not there anymore. There's too much competition. We've very much been in a marketplace where there's just far more supply than there ever has been. And so it's really important to kind of think through these things, so that we can, again, help combat things like price sensitivity and lack of perceived value. Um, Another one that we often see is a lack of scarcity and urgency. I think that's a really, really important one too. Um, Making sure that people understand that there's a reason to buy now as opposed to wait. And more than ever, and this is really heavily impacted by how much supply there has been and how many choices there are for ticket buyers, we're seeing people buy way, way, way late. So much later in that event life cycle than they ever have before. We've had some major, major festivals that are selling 33% of their tickets in the last 2 weeks. And the cycle is, 6 months. So it's, we think, hey man, I mean, yeah, it would have been a lot worse had we not been doing what we were doing. But at the same point, think about, events that aren't doing their marketing in a way that addresses why should you buy now as opposed to wait. And so thinking about things like certainly low hanging fruit like pricing tiers and that kind of thing, right? But also, is there an opportunity to do limited time bundles with artists where it's, the next 50 people to buy their ticket also get a merch package, or maybe a pre-show pizza party or something like that, right? Um, but there's opportunity to make sure that the ticket is worth buying today, because we're combating a lot of stuff. People need to decide, who am I going with? How do I get there? What's the weather going to be like? Who else is going to be there? Is the show even going to happen because all these artists keep canceling? Like, all these things, we have to make sure that the value and the reason to buy now is going to outweigh all of those worries and concerns. And so that's the story as marketers that we have to tell in a smart way. So
Brian,
I'm going to
curious.
pause there. Yeah.
Yeah, I wanted to dig in a little bit more on, kind of that shift with people buying later, right? Typically we see a reverse bell curve where it's hot on sale, kind of have this lull and then leading up to the event, but it sounds like more people are buying later in that. So I'd just be curious from you how you've kind of morphed your marketing campaigns, your messaging to feed into that. So you're kind of maximizing your ad spend and the timing and making that, I guess, speak to the trend of people buying later without having to, being cost efficient, right? Like you don't want to spend too much at the wrong time. So how do we time that out better and make the campaigns more effective?
Yeah. Well, we definitely try to, from a paid advertising perspective, align our spend with that event marketing life cycle and when people are buying tickets, because we want to spend the most when people are most or have the highest potential to buy. And so definitely at the on sale, kind of that first 2 to 3 week period, we're going to be, spending significantly. Our goal is to get on average usually around 20% of tickets sold at that on sale. And then we'll pause. We'll try to kind of conserve budget. And it, of course, depends on the event. But, I'm thinking more in the realm of like, theater club show kind of stuff. We'll usually take a break during that maintenance phase. So during that valley between the on sale and then the closeout of the ramp up to the show, we'll focus mostly on kind of our organic channels. So our social media, our email marketing, we'll be doing contests, we'll be doing all these things to really kind of foster those folks that are in that middle of the funnel, So they're in that kind of consideration phase. They're aware that this thing is happening because of the on sale and all that activity, but they're not yet ready to buy. They're not in decision mode quite yet. And so that's kind of our activity during that maintenance phase. We're also doing a lot of testing, and we'll take a look at the data from the on sale, and we'll assess, like, how effective is this thing right now, in the sense of what has been the cost per acquisition, right? So how much do we spend? How many orders were there? What's our cost per acquisition? And then what is the average order value? How much are people spending in total with each of those orders? And if we can compare those two, that tells us, well, this is a solidly profitable campaign. Usually the average is about 25% of the average order value is your cost. So leaving you with that 75% margin. Most of our campaigns are below that average, but um, that gives us just, again, a sense of like, all right, cool, we're on the right path. And if we know that, let's say, it's costing us $10 to acquire an order, each order is worth about $100. So we've got that kind of $90 margin there. And so if we know that that $10 is an acquired order, how many more orders do we need to get to meet our goal? And so then we can compare, that's how much we ought to be spending, right? If for every $10 I'm making 90, that's a sign me up. Um, but I also know that there's a finite amount of tickets that I can sell in that room. And so I can reevaluate my projection with actualized numbers and really determine, okay, cool. Like, for every $10 I spend, I get an order. This is how many orders I need to get to. And so this is where things are headed trajectory wise. So that's something that we do there in that maintenance phase to kind of conserve budget, or at least reevaluate budget. And then, yeah, we'll turn spend significantly back on as we get closer to the show. Usually, again, depending on the size of the show, but you're in that like probably month range. And then we align that spend with what we were just seeing trend wise, people buying way late.
Yeah, got it. That's super helpful. Curious on just some of the stuff that you do with email marketing. Like, I know that's a big part of your focus. We just launched a new integration with Drip, which is a CRM platform, which we're super pumped about. So we've got that and MailChimp, and then we're working on a couple of others with Hive and Symbol, which we feel like are kind of leaders in the CRM space. Could you maybe talk through some of the unique and creative ways that you're helping your clients leverage their first party data, and especially as that pertains to like leveraging features of their CRM platforms, and maybe even through the life cycle of the on sale?
Totally. So yeah, I mean, your data is everything. We look at, advertising, particularly with social media, is great, but you don't own that relationship with fans. And so that's why we'll do a lot of things like contest marketing on social media as well, to capture more data, because there's just a natural churn with your email list. People just unsubscribe over time. Um, Most email lists comprise of data captured from sales. On average, people are buying 2.7 tickets per order. So that means that for any given show, you don't know two-thirds of the audience. And so that's why things like contest marketing is super important. Having a really compelling email sign up on the website is super important. There's definitely a correlation between, what your sign up says and how many people are going to sign up. It's kind of like duh, but it's true. I mean, we find significant more conversions for our lead capture when it's something like sign up for our newsletter and you get entered for a chance to win a pair of tickets. That's so much better than sign up to to know the news or something like that. So so that's, just from a capture standpoint, really important to just be feeding the beast and making sure that your list is up to date. And segmenting, kind of data management. I think like having a platform like Drip and others from a CRM perspective is super smart, because when you do your email marketing, it's ideal to make sure that you're segmenting appropriately. We try to segment based off of RFM, so recency, frequency, and monetization. recency. So how recently somebody bought from you, frequent how frequently they bought from you, and then monetization, or how much they've spent with you. And you want to give those folks that have, checked those boxes and are your super fans and your VIPs, you want to give them the opportunity to spend with you more. So it's similar to like the ad conversation. You want to spend more in the advertising when people have the highest potential to buy. And so it's similar with email marketing. You really want to make sure that you're segmenting smartly. We also segment based off of behavior. So if they opened an email, clicked on an email, but didn't buy, well, then there's an opportunity to follow up with a retargeting email. Um, and then certainly like historical sales. So being able to target based off of like, okay, they bought similar shows in the past and things like that. That's always smart. Um, I would also not forget like afterglow. If there's that 48, 72 hours after the show, to send an email to all those ticket buyers, one, asking you how you did, because you're going to get a hell of a lot smarter about your product when you do that. But also to cross promote. You've got potential future shows that you can put out there. Um, Another thing too that I'll share that we love is a ticket alert. So if you think about kind of the experience of a fan trying to buy a ticket for a show that's, let's say, been announced but is not yet on sale, or that's already sold out, I mean, those are dead end experiences for the most part. There's nothing for them to do usually. And it's super frustrating. But if there's a ticket alert call to action instead, where they can sign up to be alerted when tickets do become available, let's say maybe for a sold out show, like holds get released or something like that, um, like as an event producer, you avoid putting it out in the marketplace for bots to eat up. But you have a lot of data capture there. You also, like, if it's during an announcement, you can make a choice around maybe adding an additional performance based off of how many people sign up for that. Um, that email and sometimes a text message that goes out to people that sign up for the alert, usually about like an hour before an on sale, we've seen a 28% conversion rate from that. So super powerful. But again, goes to like smart data capture and good segmentation. That's gonna win the day.
Brian, curious, it was one of the topics we were, looking to discuss. What are some common pitfalls that you're seeing out there right now, and what are some ways that, our customers can avoid those things?
Yeah, I mean, I think that above all else, there are so many event producers we find don't buy their own ticket. They don't go through the process and experience what it's like for their customers to buy a ticket. And I think that that's incredibly important. What we've seen, every click from when they land on the landing page to enter their credit card is usually a 33% drop off. I mean, that's really significant, right? And if you have certain things like, you're requiring uh, an account to be set up before you can get into the ticket purchase, there's no guest checkout, any of that, like that's going to be usually around a 35% drop off. I mean, there are a lot of major roadblocks. And I'll say, like, I can't necessarily advocate for Ticketmaster's platform because they have that massive roadblock. And they do that because they want to capture data above all else. And then they resell that data to sponsors and all that kind of thing. So they're never going to do guest checkout. I really dig Ticketsauce's kind of one page checkout and that flow. It's simple and easy and streamlined. And so that's a really important consideration where you're spending a lot of time and energy on email marketing and ads and social and billboards and whatever, to get people out of one place. And it's to buy a ticket on the website. And if you're spending all that time and energy, yet when they get there, it's not easy to buy a ticket, it's all for naught. And you're just wasting a lot of time, money, and resource. So that's the number one thing. That's the number one pitfall by far. Um, Beyond that, I think it's just like, you know, trying to think through the main roadblocks, right? So price sensitivity, you know, what is this going to like? How can this be properly priced or presented in a way that that helps address that roadblock? also not thinking through the urgency element, right? So it's like, why should somebody buy a ticket now as opposed to wait? And then perceived value. And that's the hardest one to address for sure. Um, because it speaks very deeply to product market fit and um, is this event that you're putting out into the world worthwhile in people's eyes? And so thinking through that, is extremely important at the onset of any event. Um, Again, why is it special? Why compared to, none of these events happen in a vacuum, so why does this one matter? Um, and taking that time, at the beginning, I think is going to make a world of difference.
Brian, maybe we could talk through some of the things that you've been helping some of your clients with, right? Like dig into some specifics, like what your team really focuses on when they're working with an event producer, venue, et cetera, and kind of maybe talk through your process and some of the things that you feel like make you and BEM unique, and how you approach some of the problems that event producers have.
Yeah, I mean, if you probably couldn't tell, we're super data oriented, and I think um, that lens through which we look at all of our service, where it's how do we make it as easy as possible to buy, and going through the checkout flow, and buying the ticket for the event as one of our earlier steps, but also really deeply understanding the audience and making sure that we have data to substantiate, okay, cool, like who we're telling our story to aligns with who we're wanting to buy tickets. Um, those are things that it's really hard for venues and promoters that have, maybe one or two marketers on their team and a million shows to, promote, to like focus on that kind of stuff. And so that's why we serve as that complement to them, where we come with that perspective and that kind of third party angle where we're very much able to, see what else is out there in the landscape, and hey, this is going to work really well for you guys. And so that's kind of, I think, high level what we're doing with our clients. But more specifically, I mean, I think we're navigating a lot of the tracking stuff for clients too when it comes to advertising. So it's extremely challenging. It's not really set up for our industry, if you think about it. I mean, pixel tracking in particular, it is one of those things where it's supposed to be for like products that live on the shelf. It's supposed to be, but on a singular tour, we may be dealing with 10 something different ticketing platforms. And so we have to set up tracking with each market, and it's a beast. And so, being able to do that in as efficient a way as possible, because oh, by the way, we go on sale tomorrow. That's it's really tough. So we help, we've got our team and we've got our system, and we're able to kind of turn that out pretty quickly. Um, but we also know that 100% tracking just does not exist. It does not exist anymore, particularly since the iOS update, which, it's been several years now where iPhone users, they have the opportunity to opt out of tracking. So that kind of golden age of really being able to track your ad conversions is no longer in full. Um, Pixel tracking is impacted by things like pop-up blockers. If anybody buys after a certain attribution window of viewing or clicking on an ad, that's not going to count. It's not going to account for walk-up sales or F&B or merch or anything, so there's a whole host of things that require us to take the data that we have on hand from ticket counts, from website analytics, from ticket analytics, and make projections and estimates based off of that are directionally correct, that show us show the impact. So we're spending a lot of time kind of calculating that so that we can answer the question of, all right, well, how much more do I need to spend to sell this thing out? Did I budget enough? How, are we reaching the right audience? are we, if we're bringing the horse to water and it's not drinking, where's the issue?
Mhm.
What are things like, the ratio between add to carts and then purchases, and how many are abandoning that process because that's a telltale that maybe ticket fees are too high.
Mhm.
That kind of stuff, right? So we're looking at it full funnel. That's where we help our clients for the most part. That's where we're earning our paycheck.
Got it. Yeah, that's really helpful. On the lack of 100% tracking, like that's certainly a thing that we're all aware of, right? But are there any ways that you've kind of worked around that to gauge the success of a campaign where you can justify additional marketing spend even though you may not be able to track that and attribute it 100%? Like, what are there other key metrics that you're looking at that, like, yes, maybe we didn't have the greatest ROI on this campaign purchase wise, but we did X, Y, or Z?
Yep. So, we some of the key metrics, right, are like unique link clicks. So understanding kind of what traffic is being driven from a digital ad campaign. Um, and then we'll compare that to, act like how engaged that traffic is on the destination site. I'll note that, for us as event marketers, there's usually two options for us to drive people to either the marketing site or the ticketing site. And that goes back to kind of where people are at in the funnel. And so we recommend kind of the first introduction, the top of the funnel, they need more information and it's a softer sell. It's more of a learn more situation. And so we drive them to the marketing site. And then there's the bottom of funnel folks that's deeper into that conversion process. And so it's more of a buy now, harder sell for those folks. So either way, if we have the data, the analytics for either of those, it's really helpful. We can assess, all right, well, how engaged is that traffic? Are they clicking on things? Are they visiting multiple pages? Are they spending more than, 10 seconds on the site? And that gives us more insight as to, how engaged they are and are we reaching the right folks? And then again, we'll take a look at like, add to carts and kind of the next step in that process. And then if we're seeing roughly around 70% or below from a add to cart to purchase. That 70% is about the benchmark. Then we're like, all right, cool. We're driving the right traffic and the right traffic is converting. Um, and then we'll take a look at, all right, well, how much traffic did we drive and how many orders were there? And so that's our conversion rate from advertising. And usually we were expecting to be around 2%. So 2% of that traffic turns into an order. Another metric would be that we take a look at how many tickets are being sold per order. And that gives us a better understanding of, for what that average order value is. And, is there maybe an opportunity where it's like, because the average is 2.7, as I mentioned earlier, and it's like, all right, well, we're closer to two. Maybe we can do something like a family 4-pack and get that number up. Or, or we're at like 5, and like, that's amazing. So let's, keep talking about groups and keep scaling that up and go with your friends or bring your girl gang or whatever. So that's the kind of metrics that we'll take a look at to then inform, how we proceed.
Yeah, that's great. And obviously like a big part of marketing and advertising is creative, right? And so just curious to hear from you what level of involvement you have with your clients on the creative side and maybe providing them with feedback for things that they should have and some do's and don'ts and best practices, and what are kind of those trends right now, like what if anything would you tell someone when they're creating their Instagram post or reel or whatever medium it may be, like what are some of the key things right now?
Yeah, video above all else. That's absolutely resonating with people more than your kind of static image type of promotion. On the advertising again, because that's, I mean, the most of, I guess, direct and impactful way to sell tickets these days. 15 seconds or less. That's going to get you the most placements for social media advertising. Um, it's gotta sell the dream, right? So it's gotta match the energy of what you're putting out there, which feels obvious, but sometimes it's that's not the case. Avoiding shots of any type of empty seats or empty fields, uh, anything like bad weather, um, the backs of people's heads, that doesn't resonate. You want people looking happy, smiley at the camera. That drives more clicks. Um, in terms of how we develop creative, I mean, we in-house we create content for our clients, from radio spots to TV, OTT, billboards, digital, organic, social. We do all of that. So we create really cool looking shit, but it's rooted in the data, right? So we're going to put stuff out into the world and make sure that our engagement rates, our click-throughs are strong. And if not, we're not so precious around what our creative looks like that we won't change things up. And I think that that's a really important part of the process, is like, test, like make sure that kind of the visuals are, even though your opinion might be that they're the greatest, thing since Picasso, uh, it might not actually drive clicks. And so that's, at the end of the day, the most important thing.
Hmm. And which platforms or mediums right now would you say are the hottest? Like, you ran a campaign recently and you're like, oh wow, like this did really well and that was surprising.
Yeah, I mean, it's a super interesting question, because we're in this like kind of sea change with AI and its impact on platforms, and kind of the balance of relinquishing control when it comes to creative development and targeting audiences and maintaining kind of how the ads are optimized through the campaign, or content is optimized through the campaign. Um, and so all of these things are platforms are in this AI race, this arms race kind of thing, where it's like, hey, trust us, trust us, trust us. We'll do, we'll do it for you. Make your life easier, blah blah blah. But it's like, and they're not. I think, they're not lying, but it's also like, I think we all need to, as marketers, be like very cautiously optimistic around that, and be just, you know, dip our toes in the water, test things out. Like initially with Google, and their advertising, Performance Max campaigns was like their big thing, where it's, hey, we're going to serve it across all of our channels. You just input the content or whatever, we'll take it from here. Um, and we did not find a lot of success from that, and it was too much relinquishing control. But now we are testing it out with some campaigns, and we're seeing it perform better than the ones that are just fully manually controlled. So
Yeah.
it's just this like weird evolution today, and it's going to have different impacts and effects for everybody. And as the tech is like rapidly changing, all we can do is just sort of like kind of hold on. Like I think there's some element of like, we can, I don't ever necessarily want to be a first adopter, but I
Mhm.
also don't want to be at the tail end either. Like finding that happy medium, I think, is important. So yeah, I think, it's just a tough question to answer, because
Yeah,
of
for
how
sure.
much things are just like uncharted territory.
And along the AI front, have you, found any AI tools or platforms that, you're using on a daily basis to help optimize, your marketing campaigns, or anything that you've been super impressed with that, people should be keeping an eye on? And maybe it's not the first adopter, but maybe it's,
Yeah.
a couple steps away.
Yeah, I mean, I go back a little bit to the creative elements, and I really appreciate how, first off, easy Canva is to for everybody to use when you're developing, creative content. Um, but I extra appreciate how they've been integrating AI, and it allows us to, resize things, develop new, things, that it just saves a whole heck of a lot of time, and it's not so wildly like, in the stratosphere, that it's like, what the hell is going on. It's as simple as like, okay, we developed the first design, now we need to resize it, or or even have like different different cities and localize it, for that content for different markets. And there's a whole host of options to kind of leverage with Canva that I really dig.
Nice.
So that's one that comes to mind.
Got it. Yeah. Any others that you're working on or
Um,
playing around with?
well, I mean, just again on the ad front, it's very integrated to Google and Meta, where their AI tools are facilitating things like ad placements and ad optimizations and ad creative and ad spending. And so we're leveraging it with some strong success. But again, there's pros and cons. So it's kind of like we're we're healthily skeptical about about it, but so far so good.
Got it. Great. Yeah. Well, cool. I mean, we're 15 minutes left in the meeting, so wanted to see if anyone had any questions for Brian at this point, to learn from him on his expertise.
I'd be super curious just to kind of hear like, what events people have coming up, how they're selling, what does it look like from a supply demand kind of situation? Are you guys seeing kind of this trend of late buying? All that kind of stuff would be great. We're gonna call on people. Don't make me do it.
Anyone? Anyone have anything?
Yeah,
I'm
Bueller.
willing to share a little bit if you want.
Yeah,
Yeah, let's
go
do
for it.
it.
Um, I don't know if my camera should be on or not. So my name is Alex, and I own Madtix, which is focused on selling tickets in my small rural community and then expanding that to other regions. So the town that I live in is very tourist based, and there's constantly large festivals, small workshops, things like that. People come here because they want to have the experience of getting out of a big city and enjoying a small town. Um, so I ticket multiple venues and organizations, whether it's music shows of about 150 people, to rodeos of about 6,000. It's just kind of all over the place. But I would definitely say that, like, especially in our area, people just like don't have marketing knowledge, and so they are looking to me to push those events, even though I'm worried about it more on like the Google and like how is this event reading in that capacity versus showing them how to use Facebook, kind of deal. But definitely seeing a trend of event sales being like ticket sales are definitely dropping, just across the board for a lot of things, or they are extremely last minute. And so I think the big piece that I took from this too was trying to create that sense of urgency to buy early, because a lot of people aren't doing that. They're just like, if it's a cool thing, people will buy the tickets. And that's not
Yeah,
necessarily the case all the time. So,
it's the problems. There's so many cool things.
yeah,
So
and
it's like,
there
yeah,
definitely is a lot going on.
yeah,
But I'm really new to this, and even like the email marketing piece, I'm not super techie. I'm just very good at helping people put the pieces of the puzzle together. And so you gave a lot of good info. I think I'm just so early on in the process that I don't know how to really like, take that and super utilize it or apply it yet. But
yeah.
it's still good to know, as I work through these things and try to get better with it. So I didn't know what CRM was until you said it. So then I was like Googling what that meant. So I'm very new to the game as far as that goes, but it was also really helpful.
Love it. Well, thanks for sharing. And it sounds like you got a lot of, yeah, really, really awesome stuff going on. Um, I think that, yeah, I mean, the marketing landscape can be super overwhelming. I mean, and as soon as you feel like you got a handle on it, it changes on you. Uh, it's an evolving beast, but um, know that your product is your best marketing at the end of the day, right? And it's also just boils down to storytelling. So fundamentally, you got to know, who you're telling your story to, and just as long as you're smart around that, the rest of the puzzle pieces will fall into place kind of naturally. So, making sure that, all right, what I'm putting out into this world is a really compelling, valuable thing, right? You're getting all of this stuff, and don't wait to get this stuff because it's going to be gone soon, right? So there's that urgency scarcity element, and then just making sure that who you're telling that stuff to would actually be the customer for that. Because there's a common pitfall, I would say, to spend a little bit too much time and energy on reach audiences as opposed to your core audiences.
Mhm.
So that would be like, fundamentally, if you focus on that kind of stuff, you'll be in great shape. Yeah.
Thanks,
Cool.
Alex.
So I saw something here about Sun Events just launched our entry season passes first, selling well. Our market likes to know how, or know they have their same seats. Yeah. So yeah, I mean that's a um, great opportunity to just make sure, yeah, get your seats before they're gone. All that kind of experience. I mean that really
Yeah,
helps
and
drive
focus on the
commitment.
core, like you just said.
Yeah.
Alex brought up a great point with education, and knowledge of things being a factor. And Brian, I'm not sure if you were planning on talking about this, but I will absolutely plug it because you're a wealth of knowledge, and it would be impossible to transfer all of that on an hour-long call, right? So he and I were talking about it yesterday, but Brian launched or is in the process of launching an educational product that goes over, all things event marketing from A to Z. So that was something that he and I spoke about yesterday that I thought, in addition to, of course, like this call and others like it, could be a valuable resource for, people out there who are eager to learn more about marketing and brush up all of their skills. So Brian, I at least wanted to bring that up, especially because Alex
Yeah,
mentioned
thank
it.
you. Just
So
dropped the link in the chat.
nice.
So if you
Perfect.
all want to check that out, it's the liveeventmarketingcourse.com. Really stoked about it. I mean, this was a COVID concept, so it's 3+ years in the making. But it really, kind of culminates in we did over 60 videos worth of content. Just the show's booked. Now what do you do? And kind of each step along the way, and what are those common pitfalls and roadblocks and things to avoid, and um, all those considerations, and we touched on several today. But yeah, take a look, and encourage you guys to sign up. We've got some heavily discounted pricing as we're just launching this thing, so yeah, I encourage you guys to take advantage of that.
Yeah, love it. And then Brian, if anybody's curious about your services and working with you, what's kind of the next best step to get in touch
Yeah. I'll
and have those
also drop
convos?
my email
Great.
here, right there, and this is our um, this is the company website that you can see as well. Cool. And then Courtney asks, is there a certain time frame of email blast for a themed event? October 4th or for Oktoberfest or July 4th festival. Yeah, I mean, I think that if you're talking about kind of like one time a year events, it's ideal to align your emails with each kind of element of the life cycle. So certainly announcement. And then if you're doing a pre-sale, you want to make sure that your email is getting, if you're treating all of your email subscribers for the pre-sale, or if you're, you can go back to that like RFM, like if just your VIPs get the pre-sale, it's an email to them. Um, and then you've got kind of the on sale, or if you're doing a ticket alert, like there's email opportunities there. I would also not forget third party email things like Bands in Town. We use that all the time. So there's other email networks and stuff that you can essentially buy into. And I would not buy lists, however. Those tend to not be very effective.
Mhm.
But then when you're in your maintenance phase, that's where you can do emails around promos, and you can do the retargeting emails. So say folks opened up that on sale email, but they didn't buy, well, retarget them with some messaging. Um, what I would also encourage is to not ignore those that bought early, because you're going to have a know before you go email. And if they're getting an email from the announcement, they bought a ticket during the on sale, and they don't hear from you again until the know before you go email, you're doing it wrong. you want to make sure that you're still communicating with them, keeping them warm, because one, there's upsell opportunities. But two, instead of a buy tickets call to action, we encourage people to do an RSVP for a Facebook event. And there's virality around there because when more people are RSVP to that event, then their friends see it, et cetera, right? So there's still an opportunity to engage and, get people involved, even though they've already bought from you. But then, yeah, there's that know before you go email, and then you might want to do an afterglow or like a survey email as well. So that's, I would say, like the typical time frame or cadence. Um, and then months out, it's kind of dependent upon the capacity of your event. But like for a one-time event, usually, you're in that like 3 to 5 month, 3 to 4 month range, I would say. You start. So yeah.
Nice. That's helpful. Brian, you mentioned bands in town, and just so we've sent out a couple emails about it, but we did launch an integration with bands in town, which is awesome. So for music related events that have performers, you can add those in the Ticketsauce dashboard, and then bands in town will pick those events up and post them, of course, on bands in town, but then their affiliate network, which includes at this point, Spotify, Apple Music, Shazam, handful of others. There's some more information on our website about that. But Brian did mention their email product, which basically you can go in and take advantage of their subscriber base and create custom emails and get those sent out. And so they've got a platform to do that. And so if anybody's curious and learning more on that for their music related events, feel free to just shoot me an email and I can kind of walk you through that process and how it works. But we've also seen that's a valuable tool as well.
Well, appreciate it, guys. Thanks again for the opportunity here and good to connect. And yeah, it's my info. Feel free to reach out if you have any other questions. But yeah, thanks so much.
Yeah. Thank you, everyone. Really appreciate you joining today. We'll do a follow-up, of course, that will include a recap and some key takeaways. But thank you so much for everyone. Stay tuned for some more things like this coming up. Everybody, have a great day.